Alright, so good morning once again. So today we are going to discuss about legal and legislative issues that concerns my nursing profession. So this is just I think, a continuation of what we discussed yesterday regarding the ethical moral responsibilities or concerns of professional nurses in their institution or in their workplace. So today, okay, since we are discussing about legal and legislative issues, it is okay, but proper that we define terminologies that is related to our topic for today. So, ignorantia legis neminem excusat is a Latin maxim, means ignorance of the law does not excuse, or ignorance of the law excuses no one. So, awareness of the law is a general legal requirement for all professionals and even non-professional individuals. Right, so a person is unaware of the law cannot escape liability merely because of the unawareness of that law. So we are um, we are all required, okay, to know the basic, okay, and the fundamentals law of this land, and we have the responsibility to abide to these laws that is formulated or promulgated by the by our country or by the area, okay, where we are in. So lack of knowledge about a legal requirement or prohibition is never an excuse to a criminal charge, okay? So in the law or in the English law, the rule is that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Okay? So the general rule is that ignorance of the fact can be an excuse as far as it negatives mens rea or fault. Okay? Whereas ignorance of law cannot be an excuse. Okay? So today, all right, it is very timely that we are going to discuss about this laws and legislations that our profession is okay compelled us to follow. So the primary purpose is to protect the patient and the nurse. So we are protected by, of course, the different laws that is promulgated by this land and by our profession. So we should um, we should review the contents of the nursing law of the Philippines, the RA 9173 for the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, for us to be protected with lawsuits or any complaints coming from our patients. At the same time, the purpose of our laws and legislations, of course, is to protect as well the um, the welfare of our patients, okay, during our tour of duty. So laws and legislation define the scope of acceptable practice, and protect individual rights, as well as nurses who are aware of their rights and duties in legal matters are better able to protect themselves against liability or loss of professional licensure. Okay, so the issue here is the possibility of us nurses uh, with our licenses being revoked because we are not okay, we are not aware, uh, we do not know, okay, our basic rights as well, and of course in our daily encounter with a variety of patients, including their family members and their significant others, we are prone to abuse as well, and we are prone to, we are, tawag dito, yung inaaway, okay, ng mga pasyente. At minsan nga, may mga legal terminologies that patients are using, okay, to demean, okay, as nurses in the area. So if you are not aware of it, or if you do not know your rights or your basic rights as professional nurses, then you cannot answer actually, or you cannot defend outrightly yourself from this, okay, from this kind of people. Okay, so all right. So the sources of law, okay, so you can actually read on on these resources. Okay, of course, the Constitution, so the highest law in the United States. But of course, we will be basing uh, our um, our laws in the Constitution of the Philippines. Okay, so the impact of nursing in nursing practice is that little direct involvement in the area of malpractice. So if you know, the prohibitions. You know what you are doing as a nurse, as a competent nurse, and you know the prohibited actions or acts, okay, na pwede ninyong gawin o gagawin sa inyong mga pasyente or na i-avoid ninyong gawin sa inyong mga pasyente, you will be safe, okay, from lawsuits or from complaints coming from patients. So we also have statutes, all right, so also called statutory law or legislative laws. Okay, these are laws that are passed by the bicameral, all right, or by the Congress or the Senate, all right. That also helps us professional healthcare workers in our duty, okay, in the commission of malpractice, medical negligence, or uh, other laws, okay, or other um, problems. Okay, so administrative agencies and of course court decisions, or you also call them as tort law. So these courts are mode laws, and the courts interpret the statutes and set precedents in your respective areas or regions or in your professions. Okay, so tell whether the following statement is true or false. So, nurse practice acts are examples of statutes. All right. So the answer is of course true. All right. So we also have statutes. Okay, that covers or yes, that covers our nurse our profession. Okay, our practice. Okay, that of course we're representing all the professional nurses in the country. All right. So this Nurse Practice Acts define and limit the practice of nursing, and thereby stating what constitutes authorized practice, as well as what exceeds the scope of your authority as the regulating profession. For example, a professional regulating organization, right? Like the PNA, okay, or the ANSAP for Nursing Administrator of the Philippines. You have OR Nurses of the Philippines, Emergency Room Nurses of the Philippines, and this accredited professional organizations or agencies are covered also, okay, I mean, their practice of nursing are defined and limited by their statutes or their mini constitutions. All right. So types of laws and courts, of course, okay, there are several types of laws and courts, but okay, wait. All right. So first here is the first type, of course, is your criminal law, your civil law, and your okay. All right. But before we move on to these types of laws and courts that is present in our society, of course, there are two types of laws according to the source of authority. Number one is the divine law, which laws are authored by God. Okay, so we should be abiding with the laws that is of course stated in the Bible. All right. Excuse me. And at the same time, there are laws, okay, of the land that we follow, okay, um, to avoid penalties, all right, and of course, maybe issues later on that what do you call this one? That will lead us, okay, to um, uh, to a more complicated situation. Okay, so this is the human these are laws that is authored by, of course, men. All right. So at the same time, there are types of human law. All right. So may mga iba-ibang klase ng human law. Number one here is private or civil law. Okay. These are body of laws that deals with relationship among private individuals. All right. So at the same time, there are public laws, all right, or the body of law for the welfare of the general public, relationship between individuals, and the government and government agencies. Okay, so it depends on the type of environment or the workplace that you are in. Okay, and if there is a commission of an act, okay, or a violation, then a certain or a specific type of law is being applied to you. Okay, so at the same time, okay, so public and private law. So the public law is concerned with the state in its political or sovereign capacity. It is a law that applies generally to people of the state adopting or enacting it. So below this, or below your public law, are criminal laws, okay, that treats the nature, extent, and degree of every crime and adjust to it the adequate and necessary penalty. Okay, so criminal law, for example, kidnapping, or right, rape, are types of criminal laws. Okay, so acts of malicious intent, okay, or harassment, okay, can be considered as criminal, okay, acts. Okay, and you also have international law, the law which regulates the intercourse of nations. So below this would be your public international law and your private international law. Okay, so we will not be dealing much on international laws. All right, political law is the one that regulates the relationship between the state and individuals that compose it. So above it is your constitutional law that relates the constitution as a permanent system of political and juridical government is distinguished from statutory and common law. All right. So there are actually a lot of okay laws that covers as individuals, all right, or group of individuals in our practice or in our nursing practice. So also have private laws, okay, remedial laws, okay, and one of the laws, okay, that we will be discussing later on is your Good Samaritan law. So how do you do it? How do you practice it? Or what are the prohibitions or limitations, boundaries of this type of law? Okay, but before that, we have a question here. A nurse is charged with administering a fatal dose of morphine. Okay, so what is a morphine? Okay, this is a potent pain reliever. It can be addictive in nature, okay, to a patient on hospice. Okay, in which type of court would this nurse be charged? Okay, so you are administering a fatal dose. Okay, so nakakamatay, delikado. Okay, ibig sabihin it's fatal. Alright. Okay, so what type of court would this nurse be charged? So saan papasok yung kaso ng isang nurse, ng nurse na ito? So is it civil? Is it criminal? Is it administrative or none of the above? So the answer is criminal. Okay, because there is already an intent. So maya-maya, we will be discussing the premises kung kailan ka pwedeng kasuhan ng criminal or premises kung kailan magiging valid as administrative yung ating cases. Alright? So the rationale is, nurses found guilty of intentionally administering. Okay, so there is an intent, sabi natin kanina. Fatal doses of drugs to patients would be charged in a criminal court. Okay? So in civil cases, one individual sues another for money to compensate for a perceived loss. Okay, so that is a civil case. Alright? So, magpo-fall ito sa to compensate a perceived loss. Okay, hindi naman siya extortion. Okay, so kapag extortion kasi is pinipilit mo siyang kumuha, magbigay ng pera, okay, for a certain act. Okay, yung parang ginawa ni I think magpo-fall sa extortion yung kaso ni Bong Navarro with yung babae na nag-invite sa kanya sa hotel. I think there was an element of extortion as well on their case. So in administrative cases, an individual is sued by a state or federal government agency, okay, assigned to the responsibility of implementing governmental programs. Okay, so these administrative cases are usually in the workplace, sa mga institutions natin when some policies are violated, okay? So, kinakasuhan yung mga ano natin, yung mga employees, okay, administratively. So, may mga examples na tayo later on. But a perfect example of this administrative case is yung may isang head of a certain agency in the hospital na kung saan merong nag-apply for leave, okay? Dahil malapit na siyang manganak. Okay, I think parang 2 months na lang or 1 month na lang ata is manganganak na siya at medyo maselan yung kanyang pagbubuntis. So ngayon, ang ginawa nung head of that agency or that institution, hindi niya pinayagan yung empleyado ngayon na tawag dito na mag-apply for leave. So hindi nag-leave yung nurse hanggang sa malapit na siyang manganak. I think doon na din siya nanganak sa hospital. I don't know kung nanganak pero parang bali-balita na yun nga nagkaroon na ng problema with that with that tawag dito with that nurse, okay, that caused the death of her child. So dahil namatay yung kanya anak and there was an tawag dito, nagkaroon siya ng depression, there was an emotional breakdown. Okay, so until they finally decided to sue the that head of that agency um, who prevented her from applying for her leave. So until such time na nagkaso-kaso administratively and definitely the head of that organization was terminated, okay, from working in that hospital. So that is an example of administrative case. Meron pa isang head din of a certain institution, isang workplace kung saan pinag-duty niya ngayon yung buntis na staff niya doon sa I think infectious ward, okay, or isolation ward. So nagkaroon ng problema din yung staff nurse, namatay yung baby niya rin, okay. So yun yung naging dahilan kung yun yung naging dahilan sa pag-apply niya, okay, ng kaso, okay, against that leader of that certain institution. Okay, so legal doctrines. There are also legal doctrines that guides courts in decision making. Okay, so you have three here. All right, so meron tayong tatlong guides. Okay, that of course that is being followed by the courts in making their decision. So you have your stare decisis, let or it means let the decision stand. So this actually uses precedents as a decision-making guide. So this legal doctrine obligates the courts to follow historical cases when making a ruling on a similar case. So in short, ang ibig sabihin nito is you cannot file a case against someone who has been litigated already, okay, napatunayan na nagkasala siya at nagkaroon na ng desisyon ng korte. So, hindi mo na siya pwedeng ilagay ulit in a trial. Okay? So, hindi mo pwedeng bigyan ulit, ilagay ulit siya sa, sa korte. Okay? Para mag-respond, para sumagot, para kasuhan ulit, okay? Para ilitigate ulit ng mga lawyers. So, hindi na. Hindi, mali. Okay, it's different. Sorry. It's res judicata pala yun. Okay, sorry. Erase. Sorry. So, stare decisis class is a legal doctrine that obligates courts to follow historical cases when making a ruling on a similar case pala yun. Okay, so stare decisis ensures that cases with similar scenarios and facts are approached in the same way. So, kumbaga, in short, ang stare decisis is a consistent approach to okay the act that is being committed by the same or the similar act that is committed. Okay, so for example, si Nurse A ay nagnakaw ng gamit sa hospital. Okay? So may kinuha siyang mga gamit sa hospital, alright, na inuwi niya. So bawal yun. Okay? So bawal ang kumukuha ng mga gamit sa hospital. So that Nurse A was found guilty at nahatulan siya ng 3 taon na pagkakakulong and yun nga pinagdusahan niya yung kanyang kasalanan. Another case, okay, si Nurse B, ganun din. Nagnakaw din siya ng gamit, okay, ng equipments in the hospital, alright, ng supplies, okay, so that Nurse B was found guilty, okay, so ang ibig sabihin, papasok yung stare decisis kung, okay, magiging consistent ang korte napapatungan or hahatulan din siya ng tatlong pagkakakulong. So that is now doing consistency in sa pagpataw o sa pagbigay ng mga parusa, okay, sa same act that is being committed by, okay, individuals. When you say res judicata, a thing or matter settled by judgment, this applies only when a competent court has decided the legal dispute and when no further appeals are possible. Okay, so this doctrine is similar to the criminal law concept of double jeopardy. So, yun nga lang, nandun siya sa civil law setting. Okay? So, res judicata is only applicable in a civil law setting. So, uh, this means that res judicata bars any or it prevents any party to a civil lawsuit from suing again on the same claim. So, for example, nagnakaw siya ng gamit sa hospital. Alright. So, napatunayan na guilty yung tawag dito, napatunayan na guilty siya in committing that act. Okay, at napatawan na siya ng pahusa sa kanyang ginawa. Hindi mo na siya pwedeng idalhin ulit sa korte para patunayan ulit. Okay, kasi meron ng meron ng desisyon ang korte na kailangan makulong siya ng 3 taon at pag-usahan na yung kanyang ginawang kasalanan. So, ending na yun kasi pinagdudusahan na niya. In res judicata, hindi pwedeng kasuhan mo na naman siya ulit ng same okay na kasalanan dahil sa kanyang pagnanakaw. Alright? So, yan ang ibig sabihin ng res judicata. So, this includes any issue that was heard already and decided upon in the first lawsuit. So, even in the subsequent lawsuit attempts of states or in the courts, different reasons the party should prevail. Alright? So, um, yun na nga ang judicata. At the same time, you have now your respondent superior. Very, very commonly heard. Ayan, so lagi ninyo na maririnig o may encounter in your jurisprudence topics. Okay, wherein the master is responsible for the acts of his servants. Or in some manner, it can be defined as responsibility on the act of another person. So an employer should be held legally liable for the conduct of employees whose actions he or she has the right to direct or control. So a perfect example here is ito nga. So halimbawa, sige. I-define pa natin further yung respondeat superior. So respondeat superior embodies the general rule that an employer is responsible for the negligent acts. Okay, so hindi lang basta action or violation, it should be negligent in nature or omissions of its employees. So, under this doctrine, an employer is liable for the negligent act or omission of any employee acting within the course and scope of his employment. So, dapat meron siya nasa line of duty, okay, nasa trabaho, nasa oras, okay, or duration of duty. Okay, wala siya sa trabaho pero nandun siya sa oras ng trabaho. Okay? And this is purely dependent or vicarious theory of liability, meaning a finding of liability is not based on any improper action by the employer. So the fact that the employer may have acted reasonably in hiring, training, okay, nakapasok na si empleyado, and retaining the employee is irrelevant and does not provide a basis on which the employer can avoid liability for the act of its subordinates or employees. So, another underlying premise of this doctrine, yung respondent superior, is that the cause of torts committed in the conduct of business enterprise should be borne by that enterprise as a cause of doing business. Okay, so nabanggit natin kanina that the employee, all right, is within the scope or within the duration of duty as well as during the time of his work. Okay, so a common scenario is where respondent superior might apply is when someone suffers injuries in a car accident. So medyo babaliin natin konti, hindi siya sa healthcare setting. So pag yung isang employee, if the other driver's negligence causes okay the crash, liability could extend to his or her employer. So, for example, yung ambulance driver, okay, is okay, ay mabilis yung takbo at dahil sa bilis ng kanyang takbo ay nabunggo niya. For example, yung isang tumatawid na matanda. Okay? So, na naging dahilan ng kanyang ng pagkamatay o nagkaroon ng gas-gas, mga complications, yung matanda na tumawid na nabunggo ng ambulance. So kapag umabot yan sa korte, okay, the rest of the superior may apply since the employer of that ambulance driver is held liable, okay, dun sa nangyaring tawag dito violation by that hospital driver. So another is um, okay, sa medical, ano naman tayo, on the medical side, for example, a physician or other type of healthcare provider, let's say a doctor has a private practice. So with several employees, one of his or her medical assistants gives the wrong medication to a patient. So very common ito sa ating profession. So as a result, the patient becomes sick and requires hospitalization. So maling gamot yung ibigay, na dahilan para magkasakit lalo, magkaroon ng complication, or nagkaroon ng bagong sakit. Okay, healthy individual nagkaroon ng bagong sakit because of that wrong medication. So it is really possible, okay, or improbable that the doctor will be held liable for the actions of the medical assistant. Okay, so pwedeng hindi properly trained or oriented yung medical assistant or si nurse na nag-administer ng gamot, alright, na naging dahilan para yun nga, makasuhan din o maisama din sa liability yung kanyang tawag dito, mga subordinates. Nangyari din yan, okay, sa isang CI, alright? Since the CI has has a professional and moral obligation to the actions, okay, or to the um, yes, to the actions of his or her students. So once na nandun kayo sa clinical area, it is the license of the CI that covers, okay, or ang nagbibigay ng authority for you to manipulate the equipment, for you to give medications, okay? Yung lisensya ng CI ang ang sumasaklaw doon sa mga ginagawa ninyong activities in the clinical area. So any mistake, any violation, or any harmful act, okay, that is committed, okay, during your line of duty as a student will compromise or will jeopardize, all right, the license of your clinical instructor. Kasi nga, siya ang inyong superior. The clinical instructor is the master, and whatever mistakes committed or violations committed by his or her servants, malalagay o malalagot ang kanyang lisensya. And pwede ma-revoke ang lisensya ng instructor kung napatunayan na yung ginawa ng estudyante ay naging dahilan para mamatay o magkaroon ng komplikasyon ang ating mga pasyente. Okay, so kung medyo banas ka, ganyan, o naiinit ka kay CI, ay gumagawa ka ng okay, dahilan, okay, para maano. Yun nga lang class, okay, kung kahit minor kayo, kahit estudyante kayo, you will also face, liabilities. Okay, so pwedeng maban kayo from entering a nursing school, okay, or any healthcare, or any school that offers ng healthcare related courses. Kasi you are found to be incompetent. Alright? So, ayun nga, mag-ano ka na lang, di ba? Mag-vulcanizing ka na lang kapag hindi ka kinuha sa health sa school that offers na related healthcare related courses. Okay. So, there are also types of okay. Ayan. Meron pa tayong ayan, okay. So you have your negligence versus now your okay. Dito, your professional negligence, or you call it now your nursing your malpractice. All right. So when you say negligence class, okay, so this is a failure to observe that degree of care, precaution, and vigilance. Okay, so degree of care, ibig sabihin, if you are a nurse, you're expected to be, okay, prudent in your actions. You are expected to be skillful enough, okay, para i-execute yung isang bagay. Dahil naranasan mo na yan, ginawa mo na yan, pinag-aralan mo yan, inulit-ulit mo na siyang ginawa. Okay? At some point, okay, nagkaroon ng pagkukulang, okay, sa part mo, okay, bilang isang professional nurse. So, this, okay, will lead to circumstances justly demanding or resulting to the injury of another person. So, meron kang merong injury or harm na naipaabot doon sa o na nangyari doon sa iyong pasyente. So, the existence of negligence is determined by the behavior of the person in the situation. So, your behavior also can affect the degree or the gravity of the case that may be given to you, yung maipapataw sa iyo. So, how do we determine if a person acted in a negligent manner is yes, negligent manner, or what is the standard of care? So, um, sabi ko nga kanina, as mentioned a while ago, as professional nurses later on, you are expected to be as prudent, okay, as possible, or you should be prudent anytime. Okay, ibig sabihin ng prudent is yung nag-iingat ka sa lahat ng ginagawa mo. Okay, masyadong maingat, okay, yung mga sinasabi mo, yung mga ginagawa mo, alright, even yung pagkuha nga ng inyong vital signs, maraming nagiging problema dyan. Okay, maraming nagiging issues dyan na pwedeng later on ay malagot ka, okay, sa batas, okay, due to negligence, okay? So, next is you have now your professional negligence, or you call it your malpractice. It is any act or an act or failure to do okay, the right thing to do, okay. So, hindi mo nagawa ng tama yung isang bagay that causes now harm, injury, distress, prolonged physical or mental suffering, or the termination of life to a patient while that patient is under the care of that medical professional. Okay? So, sakop tayo ng, of course, malpractice since sabi ko nga, you can no longer overhaul a dead person, okay, because of our uh, because of our inefficiency, okay, or ineffectivity in our line of work, okay. So, bago maging malpractice yan, or bago may consider na medical malpractice ng isang bagay, kailangan masunod yung mga components, okay? Kailangan masunod yung kanyang mga premises, ika nga, bago siya mai-consider na medical malpractice. So, number one is, of course, there should be a duty. Ayan. So, naka-duty, okay, present ka during the omission of or the commission of the act. There should be a breach in the duty. May pagkakamali. Mapapatunayan na may pagkakamali ka talaga doon sa nangyaring violation o doon sa pagkamatay ng pasyente. At mapapatunayan din na meron talagang injury, nasaktan, okay, or namatay yung pasyente because of your action. And there should be a proximate cause or proximate causation. Okay? So, kailangan mapatunayan yung apat na ito before, okay, you will be held liable, okay, in the commission of the act. So, when you say duty class, all right, when you say duty, as a nurse, you are expected to have a comprehensive knowledge when it comes to your medical or your nursing profession. At the same time, you should possess necessary skills, okay, before you practice your profession. There should be an exercise of care, okay, may pag-iingat, okay, sa iyong trabaho. At the same time, mayroong matinong medical judgment. There should be a sound, alright, medical or nursing judgment. Okay, matino dapat yung iyong pag-iisip pagdating sa pagdedesisyon sa iyong trabaho. Alright? So, it is the responsibility of every nurse to practice their profession according to their ethical standards. Okay, that is of course stipulated in your, all right, in our laws. Okay, your RA 9173. So every member of the healthcare team should follow ethical codes of their profession. All right. So sabi nga natin kanina, napaka-importante na mapatunayan nila yung prudent, okay, action during the commission of the act. So, reasonably competent practitioner in the same class acting in similar circumstances. Alright. So, unskillful practitioners of the nursing profession, okay, should be ano ba yun? Okay. Failure of a professional to follow the accepted standards of practice of his or her profession, okay, um, must be proven, okay, during the breach of that in the breach, okay, or dun sa pagpapatunay na ikaw ay talagang nag-commit ng medical malpractice. Okay? So another is there is now a failure to provide appropriate treatment. Okay? So pagdating mo dun sa hospital, okay, sumasakit yung kanyang kalamnan, alright? Tapos sumasakit yung tagiliran niya, okay, dito sa right side, hanggang sa hindi mo naman siya pinapansin kasi feeling mo nag-iinarte lang yung pasyente. Okay, so hinayaan mo lang yung pasyente. Alright? At dahil sa kapabayaan mo, okay, pumutok na yun yung kanyang appendix, okay, na nagresulta sa sepsis. Okay? At dahil nga nagkaroon na ng sepsis, pumutok na yung kanyang appendix, naging dahilan yun para magkaroon siya ng further infection. So yung infection, ang dahilan ng kanyang pagkamatay. So, napatunayan na during the time that the patient is seeking for your help or your assistance, ay hindi ka naman pumunta. Okay, based on the records, wala ka naman ginawang intervention, wala kang binigay ng gamot to relieve the pain, or wala kang ginawang intervention for emergency appendectomy. Okay? So lahat yan, kapag napatunayan, okay, pwedeng maging resulta yan, okay, in proving that injury has been really existed or has existed really. Okay? So, yan ang magiging mga patunay or merong unreasonable delay in the treatment. Okay, ayan. So, merong kapabayaan na nangyari doon sa pagbigay ng or pag-render ng care. So, under now your proximate causation, this is the cause which in natural and continuous sequence unbroken by any efficient intervening cause that produces now injury and without which the result would not have occurred. Okay? So a perfect example is our failure to adhere in the standard of care. So meron tayong sinusunod na standard of care, yung institutional policies, yung mga rules and regulations by the hospital na kinabibilangan natin ay hindi nasunod, okay? Hindi nasunod na naging dahilan para mas lalong magkaroon ng injurious action, okay, or result dun sa ating pasyente. So, dun sa halimbawa sa institutional policy natin is we are reminded to always put the side rails up of our patients every time we leave them, okay? But due to our due to our irresponsibility, ayan, or yung ating carelessness, alright, ay hindi natin naitataas yung side rail sa ating mga pasyente every time we leave them. So that alone, okay, um, can lead or can be a premise, okay, for the proximate causation of the act na halimbawa nahulog yung pasyente because of your carelessness, okay, pwedeng maging dahilan yan or maging premise, okay, dun sa proximate causation of the act. Alright? So, yan ang ating alright, sige. Okay, so these are now your legal doctrines that will help or guide the courts in making their decision. Okay, So next, all right. So nurses are at increased legal liability, okay, in the first and in the 21st century owing to the following. So we have more authority and independence in decision making. So not like before na mas na lagi tayong nagdedepende sa kung ano ang sinasabi ng ating mga doctors. Alright? So we are like robots before na kailangan makinig muna or maghintay muna ng decisions or orders coming from doctors. But nowadays, na-lessen na yung ating dependency sa ating mga doctors and we have more authority and independence already. At the same time, we have an increased legal accountability for decision making. So thanks to our nursing police who help us in formulating this laws that guides our nurses in their line of practice or in the practice of their profession. So we are performing more actions that used to be in the realm of medical practice. So mas nagiging extensive, mas nagiging comprehensive yung trabaho natin sa ating mga institution. So ngayon, um, um, ang nurses serves as parang nagiging pharmacist din tayo at the same time dahil minsan nag-dispense tayo ng gamot, we should be knowledgeable on the different types, yung nomenclatures ng ating mga medicines, mas dapat comprehensive yung ating knowledge when it comes to giving medications, alright? So minsan nagiging medtech din tayo, okay, we interpret results of the various laboratory and diagnostic test, okay? Nagiging rad tech din tayo. Pag nakita mo yung x-ray result ng pasyente, alam na natin agad, okay? Ayan, na-i-interpret na natin agad yung mga results na nakikita natin through the x-ray readings. Ayan. So nagiging social worker din tayo minsan at nagiging midwife. Okay? So nagiging counselors tayo. Okay, we become now advocates for the patients in their decision making. Okay, we help them decide, okay, soundly, okay, especially during the time na confused at hindi rin, wala din sila sa tamang katinoan. Alright? So, nagiging extensive, nagiging malawak na yung nagiging trabaho natin as nurses. We are also making more money, ayan, dahil mas marami tayong pwedeng puntahan. Dati, we were limited only in the communities, or limited in the hospital, in the academy. But nowadays, ayan, may mga nurse entrepreneur, may mga travel nurses, may mga nurses working in factories, okay? May mga nurses working in the cruise ship, okay, mga hotels, ayan. So, mas marami tayong pwedeng puntahan, mas marami tayong pwedeng kitain. And of course, more nurses are carrying malpractice insurances. Okay, so may mga protections na rin tayo, okay? Especially that kapag na-involve ka kasi sa isang lawsuit, alright, sa isang legal proceedings, masyadong mahal. Yung acceptance fee pa lang ng mga lawyers are, you know, katumbas na ng ilang buwan na sahod ng excuse me, ng mga nurses natin. So minsan mabigat siya, especially when you are not prepared. Okay, kababayad mo lang ng tuition ng anak mo, kababayad mo lang ng mortgage ng bahay, ng sasakyan, tapos unexpectedly ay may mga ganitong nangyayari sa workplace na pinasuhan ka ng isang pasyente and you are caught unaware, alright, hindi mo napaghahandaan. So, napakaganda na you apply, okay, you avail of malpractice insurances at least to protect you financially, okay? May protection ka financially when the time comes na yun nga, hindi din naman natin alam, hindi naman natin na-anticipate yung mga ganyang bagay. Alright? Okay. So, next. Okay, so question number 3. So, which of the following accurately describes why nurses are at increased liability for malpractice, malpractice suits? Alright? Their realm of responsibility has decreased. Fewer nurses have liability insurances. Nurses are making more money, or nurses currently have less independence in decision making. So the answer is Alright, letter C, where nurses are making more money. Alright, so rationale is that higher salaries have corresponded to increased liability in the nursing profession. Alright? Ayan, so halos lahat ng mga bansa ngayon nagsisipagtaasan na ang mga salaries and compensations of nurses. Alright? Um, Due to changes also modifications in their laws, all right, or mga advances with progress sa kanilang pagbabago sa kanilang mga independent professional laws. Okay, so mag-practice insurance dilemma, ayan, may mga problema din tayo sa mga insurances natin. So lahat naman, halos we encounter these issues as well. Alright, wherein nurses need malpractice insurance because of their expanded growth, but they also incur a greater likelihood of being sued if they have malpractice insurances because injured parties will always seek damages from as many individuals with financial resources as possible. So if they know that you're capable of giving them tawag dito, financial yung tawag dito yung parang bayad, okay, yung bayad sa mga damages. Okay, mas lalong ano yung mga yan, mas lalong makikiusap yan for a settlement na lang. Okay, tapos bayaran mo na lang kami. Okay, because they know that you are capable of doing so. Pero pag alam nila na you're not capable, minsan hindi na rin humihirit yung mga yan, yung mga pasyente. Okay, so there is some sort of minsan extortion. Okay, nag-extort yung mga pasyente, mga ibang tao from you because they know you are financially capable. Okay, so this was defined already a while ago. So there are 5 competencies and components necessary for professional negligence. So, number 1, a standard of care is in place. So there is now a minimal level of expertise delivered to a patient. There is a failure to meet the standard of care. Sabi nga natin kanina, a part of your breach of duty, foreseeability of harm must exist. So your ignorance to the law is not an excuse. Kagaya nga nung nabanggit natin sa introduction kanina. And there must have been a probable correlation between care and harm. So nagtatrabaho ka, nasa line of duty ka, when the harm was committed. And an actual patient injury must occur. So meron tayong dapat ebidensya, nagkaroon siya ng bruises, nagkaroon siya ng lacerations, alright? Nagkaroon siya ng pain nung nangyari yung isang aksidente or yes. So, being sued for malpractice, so just following physician orders is not a defense for malpractice. So, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na sinusunod ko lang naman yung utos ni doc. Hindi pwedeng gano'n. So, for example, the doctor ordered a severely high dosage of the medicine. Okay, so for example, nag-order si doc ng um, 1 gram of morphine or for example 10 grams of morphine. Hindi, so ito na lang. For example, nag-order si doc ng 100 units. Okay, nagkamali yung kanyang pagsulat. So 100 units of insulin, okay, to this patient. Alam mo na sobrang taas nung insulin na yon. The amount of insulin, 100 units, is already high. Okay, that may cause hypoglycemia to the patient. Kapag nag-hypogly ang pasyente, pwedeng mag-cardiac arrest and eventually will cause his or her death. So, dahil aware ka naman, kaya lang naisip mo na doktor na yung nag-utos, ano bang karapatan ko para questionin yung kanyang order, di ba? So, binigay mo naman yung 100 units of insulin. Pero alam mo sa loob mo na masyadong mataas yun. Okay, binigay mo yung gamot ngayon sa pasyente at eventually namatay yung inyong pasyente. Dahil masyadong mataas yun, 100 units. So, namatay yung pasyente, nagdemanda o nag-file ng case yung pasyente at ikaw ang primary suspect doon sa cause of death. At ang defense mo, during the trial was that it was the order of the physician. Hindi pwede yun. It will not be valid. It will not be a valid premise during the trial. Alright? Dahil alam mo, as a nurse, napag-aralan mo yan, na masyadong mataas yung binigay mong dosage of the insulin. Nurses have an independent responsibility to take appropriate steps to safeguard patients. So, balik tayo dun sa una kanina, sa meron ba tayong karapatan to question also the order of the doctor? Yes, okay. Meron tayong right, okay, to question, okay, in a nice way. Hindi pwedeng yung questionin mo siya, parang ikaw yung mas magaling sa kanya. Hindi ganon, alright? So, pwede mo siyang tanungin, Doc, hindi ba masyadong mataas yung 100 units of insulin to the patient, okay? Ay, oo nga, sabi niya gano'n, pasensya na kasi wala pa akong tulog, okay? Galing kasi akong ER. Ako ang duty kagabi at kaninang madaling araw sa ER at sunod-sunod yung pasyente namin. So, para akong lumulutang, ganyan. Ayan. So, pwedeng ano lang din, may lapse, okay? Yung in judgment or pwedeng pagod lang due to stress yung naging dahilan kung bakit mali yung naisulat ng doktor. So, you can ask the doctors, okay, nicely, okay, when it comes to questionable orders that they write in the chart of the patient. So question number 4: tell whether the following statement is true or false. So the following a physician's order is a valid excuse in a malpractice case. All right, so the answer is false. All right, so nurses have responsibility to safeguard their patients independent of physician orders. All right. So, yun nga, sabi ko, kailangan knowledgeable din tayo sa dosages especially dahil ito yung pinaka-common na nagiging dahilan ng ating problema sa hospital. Ayan. Sa mga complaints. Alright. So, nangyari din yan sa isang hospital noon. Recently lang, I think it was last year, na kung saan na-doble ata yung ibigay na furosemide to the patient. And the patient is actually I think hindi siya naman medically inclined. But because of technology, may access na sila sa internet na na-check nila. So, how much, okay, furosemide is given to a certain client. So, what is the maximum? Nakikita na nila doon sa Google. Ayan. So, nagiging matalino na rin yung ating mga pasyente. So, ngayon, okay, dahil na-doble yung gamot na naibigay dun sa pasyente, okay, na ano yan, na ang tawag dito, nung na-doble yung gamot na naibigay sa pasyente, nakita niya agad na ito yung mga possible na complications na mararanasan ng pasyente niya, okay, kapag nagkaroon ng overdosage. So, the patient or the significant other went to the nurse's station, she wrote a complaint, ganyan, hanggang sa sumagot din yung mga nurses na na-involved dun sa sitwasyon na yan. Alright? So, so how to reduce the risk of malpractice claim? Number one, you have to practice within the scope of the Nursing Practice Act. So, sabi ko nga, you have to review, okay, the laws, okay, or the provisions, okay, that will cover your nursing practice. Okay? So, ano yung mga saklaw, ano yung mga sakop ng aking trabaho, at ano yung mga posibleng consequences when I commit, okay, accidentally a certain act that is prohibited. Okay. So, observe agency policies and procedures. May mga iba-iba kasi yan minsan. The policy of RTPMC is miles different from the policies of PLP Hospital. Kaya basahin ninyo if you are given a manual during orientation or you are given a brochure that contains now the policies of the hospital, please grab a copy and review it by yourself. Alright? So, maganda na nare-review niyo yan. Okay, at least para meron kayong guide in the practice of your profession. Model practice have to establish standards by using evidence-based practice. Alright? So, tignan mo, i-review mo ngayon yung guidelines that is implemented in your institution, okay, and look for evidence-based studies, okay. You have to look for evidence-based studies, okay, na pwede mong gawing comparison. So, for example, ang ginagawa ng hospital sa infection control nila is gumagamit sila ng yung ano sa pag dispose ng mga syringes nila, for example is they tawag dito, sineseparate nila yung needle with cap, tapos itatapon doon sa ay hindi, yung mga syringes nila ay yung mga needles ng syringes nila ay nilalagay nila doon sa styro. Di ba may mga nakikita kayo minsan na gano'n sa hospital? But based on your readings, based on your researches, hindi pala maganda yung ganong practice. For example lang, hypothetical lang. So based on your researches, hindi pala maganda yung ganong practice. Okay? Mas maganda pala na magkaroon kayo ng incinerator. So, yung incinerator kasi, pag dinip mo ngayon yung needle doon sa incinerator na yan, napuputol, okay, o nasusunog yung needle niya. Okay, or yung edge of that needle. Okay, so kapag naputol yan, naiiwasan natin yung needle stick injury o yung natutusok kayo accidentally. So, ang problema kapag may mga needle stick injury kasi at may communicable disease, yung pasyente na transferable via blood, na pwede rin kayo magkaroon ng ganung sakit. So, malas nyo lang kung Hepa B or HIV, yung HIV patient yung gumamit, yung pinanggamitan ng needle na yun at accidentally ay natusok kayo. So, yun yung sinasabi natin that you have to compare the practices in your institution to an evidence-based study. Okay? Always put patients' rights and welfare first. Okay? So, patient-oriented tayo. Laging, di ba nga meron pa yung policy natin sa OR Tech, OR Tech natin, or tech ba yun? Okay, that patient first before the machine. Okay, so for example, naka-connect yan sa mechanical ventilator at accidentally natanggal yung medbed sa pasyente. Ang lagi mong pupuntahan, hindi pwedeng i-off mo muna yung medbed or ayusin mo yung medbed. Ang lagi mong pupuntahan at asikasuhin ay yung pasyente before the machine. Okay, so lagi-lagi, we are patient-oriented. Okay, patient first before others, especially when you are in your line of duty. Okay, be aware of relevant law and legal doctrines. So maya-maya, I will be enumerating some laws that you will be reading, you will be reviewing, and practice within the area of individual competence and upgrade technical skills consistently. That is why meron tayong mga continuing professional educations, mga trainings and seminars, online, face-to-face, conducted regularly. So for you to upgrade yourselves and update yourselves with the trends in our profession, you should be or you are obligated to attend. Okay, kaya nga ano yan sa batas yang CPD law because the main concern of that CPD law is that all professionals must upgrade themselves regularly. Okay, para din hindi stagnant yung ating nalalaman. Kasi every now and then, may mga pagbabago dun sa ating profession. Ayan. Okay? So, incident reports and regular na nangyayari ito. Letter of explanation. Okay. So, at least maganda na ginagawa ninyo itong mga incident reports ninyo para just in case in the future, okay, na mabuhay yung kaso, okay, o mag-decide yung family na kasuhan kayo, meron ng explanation, okay? So, hindi na kayo mahihirapan na alalahanin, okay, yung bawat detalye na nangyari, okay? Intentional torts, assault and battery, okay? So, when you say assault, meron kang sinabi na derogatory sa pasyente, may battery is there is a physical contact. Okay, meron pinagbuhatan mo yung pasyente, ayan, dahil makulit, okay, wala sa katinuan, ayan, napagbuhatan mo, nasampal mo yung pasyente, that is battery. A combination, minura mo yung pasyente, tapos sinaktan mo pa, it's assault and battery. Alright? So, false imprisonment, okay, so nilagay mo ngayon sa isang secluded na lugar, yung pasyente dahil nga makulit, okay, or kinulong mo siya dahil nga hindi siya nagre-respond okay sa inyong mga ginagawa. Ayan, without, okay, permission or without an order or without any reason, okay, walang dahilan para ikulong mo siya falsely, ayan, you will be, okay, you will be liable, held liable for false imprisonment. Invasion of privacy, ayan, so dahil maitsura si pasyente, tapos alam mo na ikaw hindi ka naman part ng kanyang care. For example, pumunta ka doon, alright, sa loob ng pasyente at nabusuhan mo siya, okay, or meron kang mga yung presence mo are deemed okay or considered as invading their privacy. Okay, so pwede ka rin makasuhan. Or defamation of character, so slander, ano yan, minaliit mo yung pasyente, okay, can be slander or libel. Sa nagsulat ka ngayon dun sa chart ng mga comments against the patient or nagsulat ka ng any, okay, libelous words online, pwede rin, okay, against the patient, pwede ka rin makasuhan. Alright, so which is not an intentional tort, false imprisonment, defamation of character, invasion of privacy, or negligence? The answer is negligence. Okay. So negligence is an intentional tort that requires that the act be committed with the awareness of the perpetrator. Alright. So, alright, may mga i-send ko naman ito class sa inyong, okay, sa inyong portal. So today, what you're going to do class is for you to, ayan, for you to review the following, okay, make a summary of the following. Ayan, so first is your Good Samaritan Law. Alright, so isulat na lang natin. Alright, so make the following class. Sulat natin. Make a summary of that Good Samaritan Law. What else? A summary of your RA 91. Hindi na. Kasi di-discuss naman natin yan. RA 9173. Di-discuss natin yan. Alright. Ano pa? Wait lang. Alright. You also have now your RA 386. What else? Your RA 673. Ano lang ito? Short explanation lang. Ano ba yung purpose? What is the purpose of this laws? Okay. At least may ano lang kayo, may idea kayo on the purposes of this laws. RA 877. You also have now your RA 1054. Your RA 10 dito na. RA 1082. Okay. What else? Have your RA 2808. Meron din tayo ng RA 4226. 4226. And marami ito class. Alright. So, ito yung mga sinasabi namin sa inyo last time when you had your when you had your case presentation that in your recommendation kailangan I know yung ethico-legal na portion ng inyong case presentation, this should be included. Okay? So, you also have your RA 7164. Okay, and dito lang muna. Ayan. So, madami ito class. So, unti-untiin natin. Hindi niya naman mababasa lahat or ma-memorize agad-agad. Alright? So, ano pa? Okay, so, this is your RA 9288. Okay, so itong mga Republic Acts na ito might come out in your board examinations later on. So at least you have an idea. Hindi naman nila tatanungin yung contents nito. Okay, o yung detailed na contents ng inyong mga RAs. They will just ask kung ano yung idea mo, ano yung nalalaman mo, or ano yung konsepto ng mga Republic Acts na ito. Ayan. So, it is good that you review this RAs or Republic Acts. But at least when the time comes that you take your board examinations and these questions will come out, ayan, may idea. All right, so thank you so much. I am expecting this requirement to be submitted um, next meeting. Okay, pero yung activity nyo kahapon should be submitted today. All right, so thank you and good day.